Hey, and welcome to Share Thoughts. I am Cheryl, and these are my thoughts. And yeah, it's been a while since I recorded one of these, so we're just going to go ahead and dust off the cobwebs and jump straight back into it. Today, I want to talk about clitorises. Why? Well, to be quite honest with you, I never tire of talking about them for plenty of reasons, actually. First off, did you know the clitoris is the only organ in the human body that's the male and female body that is designed purely for pleasure? Now, if you know me, this is something I've been harping on about for like ever and a day, so you would be familiar with that. But if this is new information, that's also great. The clitoris is designed purely for pleasure. There is no other functionality behind it. There is nothing else this organ does in the body other than to provide pleasure. The clitoris is likely to be the most sensitive erogenous zone on a woman's body. And interestingly, a quick nature fact for you, clitorises can be found on other animals, but the uses for it vary from urinating all the way through to mating, amazingly. And actually, in some cases, the clitoris actually doubles up as a birth canal. Now, I'm not entirely sure how that would work, but you know what? Nature is great. I'm not really here to question how shit goes down, so we just accept. Historically, knowledge of the clitoris has been somewhat limited. Could be because of cultural perception of the organ, or the simple fact that we live in a heteronormative society. And living in a heteronormative society comes with heteronormative ignorances, and we all know about those. But now it seems we're in a space where men in particular are happy to learn about the importance and the power of the clitoris, which is great. I want to say God knew exactly what he was doing when he made the clitoris part of the female anatomy. I mean, guys literally dicked out. Okay, yeah, you got balls, you got a dick, but the clitoris. Listen to me. The power of the clitoris should never, ever be underestimated. The clitoris is affectionately known as the clit. It's easier, short and sweet, to the point. We all know what a clit is. I mean, yeah, it does have other slang names, but the clit is universally understood. I feel like you could say the clit in most languages and maybe gesture to the area and most people would get it. And the thing is, when it comes to sex education, there is enough about the clit that can actually form its own module. Trust me. There is a lot that's misunderstood about the clit, or perhaps it's just simply been ignored for so long. Definitely one of the two, but let's just pretend it's a misunderstanding. That way, we can all feel better about life. I think it's important that we start off by talking about the clit as an organ, and then we can kind of jump into the whole pleasure side of things. Since the dawn of time, it was thought that the clit was just like this small pea-sized thing that usually sits at the top of a woman's vulva. And just to clarify, the vulva is the all-encompassing term for everything that's happening downstairs on a woman. So you're talking the labia, which is essentially the lips, so that's labia majora and minora. Also the mons pubis, which is the top part. Then you've obviously got the clit, you've got the clitoral hood, and then you've got the vagina, the actual vagina, which a lot of people refer to as downstairs. The bit basically where the man puts his penis, or where you have a baby from, or where you might put a sex toy. So the tube, the kind of canal where intercourse occurs, that is the vagina. A lot of people wrongly use the term vagina to talk about the whole thing. The whole thing is called a vulva. Just wanted to add that in. So the clit has literally been in the dark like forever. And if you're someone that owns a clit, or you like to pleasure individuals that own them, it's well worth learning about it. So the glans clitoris, or the part that we're all kind of familiar with, the bit that's sort of exposed, it sits underneath the clitoral hood. Now, I can hear you like, what is a clitoral hood? Don't panic. It is just a flap of skin. Think of when a man hasn't been circumcised, so he's still got his foreskin. He pulls back the foreskin and exposes the top of his peen. Similar thing with the clitoris. The clitoral hood is essentially, on a smaller scale, the foreskin. And no, it's not just there for decoration or to pull back and play with. It's there to protect the clit, and it's 8,000 nerve endings. 8,000 nerve endings in a clitoris is double the amount that you find at the end of a man's penis. What more can I say? Basically, because it's so sensitive, it needs to be protected. I kind of want to say the clitoral hood is a bit like a boxer's mouth guard. I mean, that's probably a really shit comparison, but do you know what I mean? It's like, kind of protects from all the chafing. Do you know what I mean? The clit is like an iceberg. We literally only see a quarter of its entirety. Imagine 3/4 of the clitoris is actually hidden inside the body. So the top bit that looks a little bit like a tic tac, the bit that sits outside the body, you know, the bit that you play with, flick, lick, whatever you're doing with, behind that, there's a whole lot of everything going on. I'm telling you. The clitoris is not just something that provides beautiful sensations. It is beautiful in the way it looks. Look behind me. That gold thing that you see behind me is actually what the clitoris looks like in its entirety. So the top bit, as I said to you, the bit that looks like a tic tac at the top, that's the bit that's exposed. That's the bit that's outside the body. The two kind of arms, the two bits that look like arms, that's actually inside the body. And it's magic. Let me tell you, it is magical. And when it comes to pleasure, Lord have mercy, magic takes on a whole new meaning. I mean, for starters, the word clitoris is actually Greek for the word key. So if you understand nothing else, please understand that by translation, the word clitoris means key. It is the key to pleasure, the key to unlocking pleasure in a woman. End of. As mentioned before, the clitoris is the only organ in the body that is designed for pleasure. And actually, when aroused, it can double in size. It's like a mini erection. You know what? It's not even like a mini erection. It is actually an erection, a clitoral erection. The clitoris gets hard the same way a penis gets hard. It's an erection. Okay, so yeah, so just to emphasize why the clit is such an integral part of a woman's pleasure, you kind of have to understand the vagina or the vaginal canal where penetration occurs doesn't have nearly as much nerve endings. It's nowhere near as sensitive as the clitoris. So even though, you know, having sex and having penetrative sex does provide some sensation, the clitoris, it's a different world. It's just a completely different ballgame. The pleasure, the sensations that you get when you stimulate your clitoris versus what's happening penetration-wise, it's incomparable. I mean, the two together obviously provide maximum pleasure, but it feels different. I think it's fair to say the clitoris provides more pleasure. Kind of obvious, really, isn't it? I mean, when it comes to pleasure, the bottom line is the clit is queen. The clit is queen. She is royal. She owns a crown. Oh, and here's another interesting fact about the clit. Just like a nose, it never stops growing. Imagine. And it doesn't age either. So whatever you've got on your pants, ladies, the same way your clit looked at 20, it's going to look the same at 80. Everything else around it might change, but the clitoris doesn't age. It stays and looks exactly the same. So ladies, when you've got wrinkles all over your face, imagine your clitoris is like literally wrinkle free. But anyways, a massive 50 to 75% of women that have orgasms have to have their clit stimulated in order to get that nut. I think that's understood more now, like across the board. Men understand that just as much as women nowadays, because it's no longer hidden information. This is information that is put out there. If you're buying like sex toys and stuff like that, it's always kind of put to you that a clitoral stimulator is kind of needed as well. Like any kind of talk you have around sex or heterosexual sex, there's a lot more emphasis put on stimulating the clitoris. So it's common knowledge, which is great. Most people know that more women come with clitoral stimulation than those that don't get clitoral stimulation. But one thing I will say, stimulating, playing, whatever you're doing with the clit is great, but it's really not about rubbing it to within an inch of its life. Just don't do that. Don't do that. I think I'm justified in saying there's not many women alive that will happily have you rub their clit as if you're trying to start a fire. I mean, what are we doing? Are we trying to strike matches? Are we attempting to create smoke by rubbing sticks? I just don't get it. I suppose it can be compared to when a man is being jerked off by a woman and she's just kind of going really hard. She's got a really hard grip and she's just banging, 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 banging. He's just lying there thinking, what is happening? It's hurting, it's chafing, it's not nice. You're not really getting any pleasure. It's the same thing. Keep rubbing on the clit like you're, I don't know, doing stuff with old school records. It's probably not going to be that pleasurable. And if she's just lying there looking like she's thinking of Christmas, she probably is, because the pain is too much or it's just uncomfortable. So just, yeah, let's just not do that whole over rubbing thing. And actually communicate. Ask her, does this feel good? How do you like it? Do you want it a bit harder? Do you want it a bit softer, faster, slower? There's nothing wrong with communicating. I'm big on communication. Ask her. Don't just presume. Don't think, oh, when I'm rubbing it, she's going to like it because the clit's got 8,000 nerve endings and if I just rub it, I'm going to make her come. Don't work like that, darling. Seriously. Communication before anything else. And one more thing, a woman that experiences a clitoral orgasm can be treated, yes, I said treated, to an orgasm that has anywhere between 3 and 16 contractions, each of those contractions lasting anywhere between 10 and 30 seconds each. You do the maths. That's an intense orgasm. That's what a clit can do. A clit can really do bits. And then to add a bit more insult to injury, if you're a dude, a lot of women are actually multi-orgasmic, which means they can come again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Imagine that. Wild! Completely and utterly out of this world. Crazy, off the chain, mad. Listen, I am telling you, the clit is definitely queen.